Today I'm going to talk about solving polynomial equations. So yesterday we talked about graphing, and we're going to graph a little more. So the first thing you need to see is when you have a sum or difference of cubes. So remember when we did this and I showed you how to factor that. So we wrote our first factor out, and that's the most important part. And you take the cube root of your first term, and you take the cube root of your second term, and that becomes your first factor. So the cube root of x cubed is just x, and then the cubed root of 125 is 5. And if you can't remember where to find that, I think that's like math 4 on your calculator. Okay, so if you need to calculate that, but it's also just as easy to memorize that. And then we have a pattern that we do. Remember this. We take the very first factor here and we square it. We take the second factor, well, we take these two factors together and we multiply them. X times 5 is 5x. And then we take our last number here, 5, and square it. And then we clean it all up with soap. Remember that? So we do the same sign here, the opposite sign here, and then this sign is always positive. So you have same, because this was a minus. Opposite of subtraction is addition, and then always positive. All right, so we're practicing doing that so later we can go and graph these, okay? So this is just kind of something I'm getting you ready for tomorrow. Let's try that, and there's the rule for you. If you want the rule, you can look at that, but it's a little bit confusing. But remember, it still does same, okay? When you have, well, I'm sorry, we do same, opposite, always positive here. All right, same thing here. Same does not stand for subtraction. Opposite, always positive. All right, let's try one more. There's soap. All right, try one more. Factor this completely. So we're going to take the cube root of each part. That's the most important part. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and the cube root of a cubed is a, and the cube root of 125 again is 5, and we'll worry about the signs later. And we do the second part, and we don't need any of this. We're done. And now we're going to square, and then we're going to multiply, and then we're going to square. So you square your first term, so 2a squared is 4a squared. And then you multiply these two guys together. 2 times 5 is 10, and then you have an a. And then you square the last term, so that's 25. Then we use soap, so we do same, opposite, always positive. Okay, so you'll have a few of those to practice today, and it's no big deal if you don't get it right away. I'm going to show you another way to do it. In fact, you can do it by synthetic division. So I will show you how to do that on Wednesday. All right, so we'll skip that right now because you guys can do that, but just remember this is going to have a common factor of b, and then you're going to go and factor b cubed plus 64. You can practice that real quick, and then I'll have the answer up for you. So go ahead and practice factoring this, and I'll have the answer up for you. Okay, so I pulled the b over there to the left, and then I wrote the first factor out, which is basically the cube root of that and the cube root of that. And then I'm going to square, multiply, square. So b squared, right? Then I'm going to multiply these two guys and get 4b. And then I'm going to square that guy right there and get a 16. And I do same, opposite, always positive. All right, so you'll be able to practice some of those. Let's talk about solving equations by graphing. Now this one was real easy. You can graph it and you can look for the intercepts. Just remember you need to set the entire equation equal to 0. So we're going to put the 6 on the other side, and then you graph it in your calculator. Put it in just like that, and you're really just looking for the intercepts. You can also do it by factoring. But go ahead and graph, and let's see if we've got the same thing. Okay, it's really hard to see on your calculator, so make sure you zoom 4 so you can see it. But it is a parabola that looks kind of like that. it goes through x is equal to -3 and x is equal to -2, and they both work. All right, let's try another one. What if you've got that? You want to graph that. So set this equal to 0, which is already done, and put it in your calculator. And let's see what we get. Okay, so I factored it, and I'll show you what I did with that. But this is what the graph looks like if you zoomed in on it. So you've got x is equal to 0, which when you look at the factor, you got 4x. I factored this, okay, equals 0. So x is 0. And then you've got the graph sitting at 1. Well, look at that. 2 of the factors ended up being x plus 1 when I factored it. So I've got x equals 1 and x equals 1. Now, on the homework that you did, it said that it had one root, all right, one real root like that. So on that SOL, it counted it as one root. Okay, sometimes we call it a multiplicity, but just to be safe, go ahead and write them all out like that. Now, if you didn't want to factor, you didn't have to factor. I just factored because I didn't have a graphing calculator on me. So I had to do it that way. But if factoring was kind of, looking at my factoring is driving you nuts, it's okay. You can just graph it. All right. Now, solving this equation, I already solved this by graphing it. And it's a cubic, and it has all real roots, so it will look like this. Okay, so I wrote it out, and I'm going to just do a really quick sketch of this graph, even though you're not going to see the entire graph. Okay, I'm not really sure how far down and up it goes, but it kind of goes like this, right? So you can't see the turning points, but it's got 2 turning points, which makes it a cubic, obviously. And the roots are real, all right? And they are actually integers. So you've got one of your roots is at -5, one of your roots is at 0, and one of your roots is at 3. And if you wanted to, if you needed to know the factors of this is very easy. You would just do y equals x plus 5. I'm going to put the -3 over here, okay? And then this x equals 0, I'm going to put that in front because we're used to seeing it like that. So it would look like that. So look at that. You can factor it by graphing it, even though I don't recommend that because you're advanced kids and you should be able to do that. All right, so here's your assignment. I really just want you to solve these by graphing. And I've got this assignment posted in a separate post on Google Classroom for you. So, but for 1 through 9, I want you to choose 6 of them. Pick any of them, all right? I got 9 of them on here. You pick 6. And then I've got on the next page, number 12 through 14, I just want you to factor, okay? And again, you're using SOAP. And the most important thing I want you to know is, how do I find that first factor? Because tomorrow I'm going to show you how to do this with synthetic division. All right, so that's your assignment. When you finish, you can turn it in when you're done. All right, have a great day.